Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Think Mentorship Live with myself and Ish. Good morning, Ish.
Morning.
We're looking forward to talking with Jeff Sloan. Jeff, I've known you for a long time. Always admired the work that you and your brother do. We're here today you're the founder and CEO of StartupNation. I love what you guys are doing. I've had the opportunity to work with you guys. A multimedia company that provides educational and inspirational resources to aspiring entrepreneurs and novice small business owners. You have an online portal for aspiring entrepreneurs to get their business up and running. And I think today, more than ever, as we sit here, Happy New Year to all, January 5th, 2021. I think we're going to see a decade of more entrepreneurs than we've seen in a long, long time. Pre-COVID studies, which Jeff, you and I have talked about, were that by the year 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist do not exist today, and that the millennials will then occupy 75% of the global workforce by 2025. That may not change, but I think with COVID, everything has accelerated as far as 5-6 years where maybe where we would have been. And so, today I think entrepreneurs, their ears are up and they want to grow, and there's an opportunity to grow faster than ever before. So talk to us about some of the key things an entrepreneur should be thinking about as they sit here about to conquer 2021.
Well, I mean, I think, you teed this up well, John. No question, everything's accelerated right now. Entrepreneurship now is in vogue, if you will, not only because it's a choice for a way of life as opposed to working for a big corporation, but now it's become maybe the only choice or a critical choice in their lives, whether full-time or part-time. Having a business is central now to ensuring one's security going forward. It used to be that having a job meant security. Now really having a business, again, whether side business or part-time or full-time, that really may define security going forward. So I think the idea, the notion of starting a business today has become a mission critical one in someone's life, as opposed to a way to add additional income to their lives. Whether it be an Etsy store, an eBay store, all the way on up to starting a fast growth, high tech company backed by venture capital, whatever it is that you're interested in, you got to be there. You got to be there these days.
Yeah. And I think I love that you talk about that, because being an entrepreneur, you can have a full-time job and still be an entrepreneur on the side. You can start small. You can do many things today. Yeah. I love that.
Exactly. And I think, to your point about how to, what do? You've got to equip yourself. You've got to equip yourself, obviously, with the right idea to pursue. Yeah. And that means both one that's vetted, well-researched, and has a place in this world, where there are going to be customers there at the ready to do business with you and drive income to you ultimately. Yeah. But also it's got to be something you love and something you're passionate about. It can't just be a money-making venture. You better pick something you really enjoy. Yeah. Because it's hard work. It is for sure.
Yeah. Jeff, lead me through. So I've done a little bit of research on StartupNation, and it's an incredible website. It's an incredible starting point for a lot of entrepreneurs that are looking to start their business. But lead me through, if someone reaches out to your company or you directly, what would you tell them in direction of how they want to start their business? Because right now there's COVID going on. It's more or less on the internet. And I know you've mentioned just now that you need to pursue something that you love, but also it's not necessarily all about the money. But how would you tell us about, I guess, from over the years, what are the tendencies that you're seeing people making mistakes in when starting a business? And in addition, their vision when coming up with a startup idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think, people, when they think about starting a business today, first they tend to think they've got to have the next revolutionary idea. Yeah. That's not necessarily the case. I mean, you can pursue tried and true business models, starting at the very base level. You can get into, buy a franchise that's proven and formulaic in a sense as it relates to getting a business up and going. But even if it's not a franchise, even if you want to pursue something on your own, there are many business models out there that are proven. Again, you don't have to come up with some revolutionary the next greatest idea that's going to change the world. It can just be a very good, proven idea that can change your personal world. And that's really the idea. I think people need to make sure whatever idea it is, beyond being passionate about it or loving, being part of that silo of business in this world. I think they really need to vet their idea and research it really well before they dive in. Passion is a great thing, but passion that leads to kind of pursuing something purely by emotion can get very, very dangerous and rocky and treacherous for entrepreneurs. So, you've got to do your homework before you jump in. You've got to do your research. One of the most important things about Startup Nation, we provide lots of content there, but I think the most important thing is to get people into the entrepreneurial mindset and thinking like an entrepreneur before they start a business.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I love what you're talking about. It doesn't have to be new. It's sometimes the best ideas are right in front of you. Doing the research, making sure people actually pay for your idea. Jeff, talk to me about the courage of an entrepreneur, because I think, everything you're talking, I agree with everything that you're saying right now. Yeah. But then there's that element of taking the jump and having the courage and the faith in yourself and really taking those first, 100 steps, but it starts with the first one. And so where, and I love how you're talking about mindsets and, so walk me through the continuum of courage.
Yeah, I love that. I think courage stems from confidence. If you have confidence in what you're doing, that will lend itself to having a sense of courage about, the endeavor you're about to embark on, whatever it may be. So I think the continuum is confidence stemming from, or courage stemming from confidence, and confidence stemming from equipping yourself with knowledge. Really getting into it, really starting to think like an entrepreneur, really starting to understand the breadth and depth of all the various things before you dive in, will make you feel ready for the adventure ahead. And I think that lends itself, as I say, to confidence leading to courage and to make that jump, make that leap.
Yeah. I remember when I started this company, my business coach at the time, Jules Rappaport, introduced me to one of his attorney friends. And as I was leaving the office, he said to me, one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to look back with regret that you did nothing. And that was the final thing I needed to hear from a mentor, right? That got me thinking, okay, I'm ready. And so what advice have you given entrepreneurs that have gotten them ready into that space of centeredness?
Yeah, and you talk about that balance. I mean, there is a balance that needs to be cut between diving in, going head first into something and learning by doing. There's no question. That's a big part of this. And there's no substitute for that. You've got to dive in. But I think, again, cutting that balance between amassing enough knowledge, doing your research, building that confidence, which leads to that courage, is a critical path to follow. I think talking to other entrepreneurs, both in the specific field that you're about to embark into, as well as just entrepreneurs more broadly, so that you can understand both the business issues you're about to face, but also the personal ones. Making sure you understand the lifestyle, making sure you understand how that's going to impact your family members around you. Many people think that entrepreneurship is a path to easy street. Well, it can lead to great success, but along the way, I would hardly call it easy street.
Right.
This is not a way to offset hard work. This is the hardest working job, if you will, in America, to build a business of your own. The burden's on your back, and you've got to get into that mindset, get into that culture, get ready for that. And so, diving in is critical, but equipping yourself before you do to the point where you have that confidence is also really that important balance to cut.
Jeff, let me ask you this. I know there's a lot of new areas that are being developed. For example, cryptocurrency becoming one of the hot commodities now, in addition to like cannabis businesses.
Sure.
When there's specifically no history that's being created because it's so new, what would you recommend an aspiring entrepreneur or the ones that are starting this new space to succeed in the long haul?
Well, I think, whether you're going into a new space or a proven space, a lot of the fundamentals, the blocking and tackling, are all the same. So that's number one. You got to get the blocking and tackling down about how to run and operate a business very basically, the key components of running a business. So I think you have to have that down. Then with respect to endeavoring into a new area, risk and reward are always directly related. Areas that are newer have greater upside potential, but they also carry greater risk. There's more pioneering you need to do as an entrepreneur every day. Now the spaces you've talked about, I mean, these are exciting, fast growth opportunity areas to consider starting a business in, but you've got to find your place in those worlds. It's one thing to say cryptocurrency, it's another thing to say cannabis, but is it in cannabis? Is it growing? Is it retail? Is it, what is it that you're going, which spot are you going to pick? You can't be all things to all people. You've got to pick the spot that really fits who you are, what you want to do every day, how you want to do it. You want to be in retail? You're going to interface with people all the time. You don't want to interface with people and be in sales? Maybe the growing side of it is for you. So I think you need to really, really research the industry and find your best place in that industry before you dive in.
Yeah, I want to dive into that a little bit more because I think that that's been a common theme of a lot of the stuff that you've said. Find a place, do your research, make sure that you're actually gonna have customers that will buy your product or service. And so when you're I remember many years ago I was down at a talk at Benzinga, and Jason Raznick had Mr. Wonderful come speak. And so he had these three people stand up and do a 1-minute pitch. And it was really cool to watch. And two of the ideas, if I remember correctly, he said, you can't make money. Nobody's gonna buy those things. And I think that is something that people need to get outside of themselves and zoom out of themselves as an observer and really do the research to see if there is a market for whatever niche or place that is. And so, because I think a lot of times our egos get away with us and we think this is a great idea, everybody will buy this, or everybody will da-da-da-da-da. And so what are some of the additional maybe warning signs, Jeff, as you're guiding entrepreneurs to say, hey, that's a great idea for you, but it's not an idea that will scale, let alone, create a market?
Yeah, and you can even take a one step back from that, John. I mean, these are great questions, but I think even taking a step back from that, again, I'm going to go back to something I said earlier. You don't need to come up with a revolutionary idea. A lot of times these pitches we see on Shark Tank and other elevator pitch kinds of things like that, they're pitching new and novel ideas. You rarely see someone get up and pitch an idea that's already out in existence. Now, look, as an entrepreneur, the first thing I would say to you is, for most of us, we're going to be better at executing a proven idea than we are going to be pursuing a brand new idea and pioneering every day. That takes a different kind of entrepreneur.
Yeah.
The low-hanging fruit in entrepreneurship is to go out and research an area that you have an interest in, that you have a passion for, that you have a love for, and you can see yourself doing and loving your work. You'd be thrilled to be part of that. Pick a proven model and think about how you can, take a look at the playing field, figure out where you might be able to fit into that playing field, and figure out how you might be able to out-execute the competition, or even maybe find a spot where that competition doesn't yet exist. And take a proven model and deploy it somewhere where there might be an unserved need. I like pushing people first to looking into ideas that are proven, as opposed to going after something completely novel. That's a much harder challenge. Again, risk and reward directly related. Maybe it has that greater upside, that thrill of, creating something really amazing and novel and revolutionary. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of those fail. A lot of them fail.
That's great advice. That's great advice. Yeah.
Jeff, I want to go back to the mindset, and, entrepreneurial journey is never an upside. There's a lot of downhills. There's a lot of, problems that you have to solve along the way. And I want to ask you personally, what are the challenges that you've conquered over the years, and what would be your advice when you started the StartupNation back, I think, over 20 years ago? And what would you say to yourself in order to see how you've blossomed over the years?
Yeah. First, I think it's really important to be true to yourself. I was a born entrepreneur. I didn't know it when I was younger. I realized it when I was young enough to be able to set my life on a course of entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've never held a job or gotten a paycheck from any entity that I didn't have a hand in crafting. that's just who I am. That's in my DNA. It's the life I chose. I found my path in life, and that's the life I pursued. And so it's important to be true to yourself first. Have that talk with yourself, if you will, and find out what works for you. And I mean, originally I was on my way to being a lawyer. I went to one day of law school. I had invented a product called the Battery Buddy, which was my first business endeavor, prevented dead batteries in cars and boats. And the same day I checked into law school, I got a phone call that my license agreement had been signed by the company I licensed to. And so that was a sign. I headed off in that direction. I was an entrepreneur my whole life. Now, having said that, I found my course in life. Any entrepreneur that you talk to that does not admit failure along the way is an entrepreneur that's faking either you or faking themselves, because every day you're going to have failures. You're going to, you talk about courage. As an entrepreneur, part and parcel of being an entrepreneur, you have to be bold by nature, and you have to be, to a degree, a risk taker, to a pretty significant degree relative to other things in life. You've got to be a risk taker. You've got to be bold. You've got to believe in yourself. And you are going to, at times, make a wrong call. Small, big, whatever it is. Daily, I make calls that turn out not to be the right ones. The key is, first of all, to recognize when you're succeeding and when you're failing. You've got to do that by really measuring business success along the way and being, again, true to yourself and your team, and being transparent. And you've got to then be able to react and adapt. Entrepreneurs have to be tenacious by nature, and they've got to be resourceful by nature. That's the key to overcoming the inherent failures you're going to face in business. And so getting through that minefield of failure, working your way through it, navigating your way through it, ultimately on a path across time that leads to, success, that's critical. And as I said, I've had my share of failures. I could list, hundreds, if not thousands, across my career. Little failures and certainly some big ones too. Things I believed in that didn't turn out to be right. But working your way around them, being resourceful, and continuing to believe in yourself and stay on that path, that's what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for going for one day of law school. I actually walked out of my LSATs 20 minutes after they started. Okay. I canceled my scores. I thought, what am I doing here? I took the whole Princeton review and then canceled my scores 15 minutes in.
We're brothers in so many ways. Sure.
Right.
We are.
I want to talk about the entrepreneurial ask. A lot of people, I see this all the time when I'm coaching people with business people in sales. They start companies and they don't go out and hunt for the business. They're afraid to actually ask people to buy their product, to look at their product, to review their product, to really sell themselves, right? And so I just want to get your opinion on how much does somebody have to have that and or partner with someone in order to make sure that their business actually succeeds?
Yeah. You talk about the ask again, just like failure in small pieces or large to a large degree is part and parcel of being in business. Being able to make an ask, whether it's ask your customers to believe in you and buy from you, whatever it is that you're selling, or whether it's to ask an investor to invest in your company, or a partner to come on board, or a new hire to come on board in a moment when the company's young and still fragile, but yet they got to buy into it and be part of it and be part of the culture and really believe. You better be able to ask as an entrepreneur. Now, here's the key to being successful at making the ask as an entrepreneur. Number one, you've got to believe in what you're doing. I believe that an entrepreneur who makes an ask that in which they believe, he or she believes, puts themselves in a position where they're really giving someone an opportunity as opposed to asking for someone for a favor.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between those two things. When I go out to raise money for a company, I know when I sit down at that table across from an investor, am I on my heels making an ask for money because this company's in critical need of money? Or am I sitting across from that investor saying, we have built this company right. This is an opportunity for you to be part of something amazing. And when you can make that subtle shift in that perspective, both for yourself and be able to convey that to whoever it is you're making the ask of, boy, everything changes. Sales change entirely with that dynamic shift.
Yeah. Amen. Well said.
I want to ask you, in addition to raising capital, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially that are becoming entrepreneurs, have been inspired or popularized by Shark Tank. And I think their first notion is if they have an idea, they need to raise capital. Can you talk about that myth in a way that you don't need to raise capital from your experience, in addition to if the capital needs to be raised, should one be focused on equity or should one be focused on profits?
Yeah, great question. And leading into the question, you made a statement about maybe the myth of needing to raise money. And so it was a kind of a leading question in that respect. And you're onto it. I'm going to tell you, entrepreneurship has both been blessed and polluted by this notion of raising the opium of startup businesses, that startup capital that flows in, that provides nice salaries for everyone, that provides much needed resources to be able to accelerate into a market, to have that the marketing resources you need to create the awareness and the early traction leading to more. There's no question that capital is critical to a business. The question is finding the right capital and making sure that the capital requirements that you believe are critical really are critical, because going out for the wrong kind of money, getting the wrong kind of money into your company, whether it be the wrong type of investment vehicle or whether it be the wrong investor, you can hamstring yourself significantly. And as much as people chase this idea of thinking that business success is about getting the investment, which it's not, that's the start, not the finish line. You see these joyous people on Shark Tank getting the money. That's great, but that's not the finish line. That's just the start. You owe that investor, you owe that bank the moment you sign up for the capital. And so, it carries a significant burden, and it also can carry with it misalignment of interest. If you take venture capital, for example, those guys are going to, rightfully so, want an exit from your company at some point. You better make sure that you want to exit from your company. Make sure it's not a lifestyle company you're building, because in order for them to get their money out, you've got to generate a return, whether it be by distributions or, more likely, in most cases, by an acquisition. You better make sure your interests are aligned. And so, when you shake hands with the proverbial devil, like a Mr. Wonderful, who comes by his name, it's a well-earned name. That guy can be wonderful on the one hand and the devil on the other, and he knows it with a twinkle in his eye. He knows it. He wants to make money. Show me the money.
Right.
You better do that. So, first of all, you've got to make sure you understand the capital needs of your business. Go through your projections. Make sure you have a really sound set of sound perspective, and that it's built on solid fundamentals that capital need. Then determine what is the fundraising strategy across the continuum of the company, short-term, long-term. And then say to yourself, okay, I need, $1 million to make this business go. I need $100,000 to make this business go, whatever it is. When do I need it? And then what is the right type of capital to tap and to source along that time continuum? In the early going, for example, if you're a high growth company, I strongly believe that angel money from wealthy individuals investing in your company on an equity basis, is critical. That's the right type of capital for the early going. You're not going to get a bank loan. You don't have a track record and 2 years of financials and so on to be able to deliver if you're a startup. So inherently, you've got to go after some sort of private funding, whether that be venture capital or angel. Angel money is the right type of money in the early going, and then seek growth capital through venture or through banks down the road. You got to put the right type of capital in its right place along that time continuum in order to grow your company soundly over time, and not burden your company with misalignment of interests and other things that can really cause problems down the road.
That was a PhD master's class in capital and equity raising. Anybody who's listening to this can drop out of the Ross School of Business. This reminded me of
in 3 minutes. PhD
right.
in 3 minutes.
Right, exactly. Yeah. This reminded me of the scene in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, when he starts teaching the economics class and he says to the teacher, you don't know anything. You don't know anything about. I want to just move to COVID a little bit. I think. A question I have for you is, what do you think are some of the key lessons learned that entrepreneurs can take away from the time of COVID that can really help them become better prepared for not only 2021, but can prepare them really for the decade.
Yeah. I mean, I think the general and broad lesson here is just when you think you've got it all handled, just when you think you got it all figured out,
Right.
You've got it managed perfectly. Right. You've got your 5-year plan down, right?
Right.
I mean, everything, you did it by the books, and along comes COVID. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? And I guess the broadest lesson there is you got to have, plan A, plan B, and maybe even plan C.
Yeah.
You really do need to think deeply and beyond the exuberance of what just may be working now.
Yeah.
You got to look around you and say, what if? Now, I think, in the era of COVID, obviously entrepreneurs and companies were challenged significantly. It did force some obviously really challenging things on us all, but it also, believe it or not, shaped us in ways that are positive as well. I mean, some of the things that were kind of sitting on the sidelines that I didn't really need to think about because my business was working really well. Like, for example, if I'm a retailer, going online. It was going online anyway. It was just going online much slower. COVID accelerated all that. It took us where we were going 10 years faster, but it was all going there anyway. You needed to be thinking about that. If you're a business, you got to be online.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't restaurants have accelerated their order online and pick up, to take out kind of capability? Well, we needed that. The restaurants needed that anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the things that we were headed to over a slower curve got all accelerated. And so some positive business change came out of that. But I think the general lesson is, again, take a look around you and look at all the what ifs and make sure you go deep on those things so you've got lots of contingency plans in place.
Yeah. I love it. All right, Jeff, you ready for a quick speed round?
Wow. I don't know. It's only 8:15.
What I love about this is a new series launching today called Think Mentorship that Ish and I are doing. I'm a big believer in mentorship. I was always raised that you can learn something from somebody younger and older than you, and always be open to feedback and surround yourself with mentors and coaches and people who can help guide you. And so my question to you is, what's one of the best pieces of advice a mentor has given you?
First of all, I think having a mentor, as you just mentioned, John, is really, really critical. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we tend to believe either I'm going to go this on my own by nature. Entrepreneurs are independent thinkers, but drawing upon the expertise of potential mentors is something that I do. And it's something I did too late in my career, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
I rejected it early on. I believed that I had a handle on what I was doing. I was the quote unquote smartest guy in the room, or in my world, in my room. And I didn't need mentorship. I had a handle on it. You know what? That's not good thinking. So first, I just want to encourage everyone to be open to mentorship and to seek it and pursue it when and where you can.
Right.
What about from your experience, Jeff? What's the lesson that you learned, not through the mentorship, but through your experience, that you want to give to the viewers?
Well, I'll tell you now, having advocated strongly for mentorship, one thing I also learned, because I have more recently tapped mentorship. I think that one of there's an art to receiving good mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
And that art is cutting a balance between what someone may advise you as being right or wrong, and what your own intuition tells you, or your own experience tells you.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to cut that balance, because look, a lot of times in business, like in a lot of walks of life, a lot of success comes because someone was in the right place at the right time. They had the right idea for the right moment, whatever it may be. And then once they achieve that success, they become the brilliant person, right? But that's not always true. Many times the best advice comes from entrepreneurs who maybe haven't realized meteoric success, but have been in business and have had failure and success and have been in the trenches and really understand business, both the good and the bad. And so I think you have to seek the right mentorship. And then once you get it, you can't take advice as absolute. you also can't reject it, obviously. You've got to find a balance between your intuition about the advice you're getting and the advice you're receiving.
Yeah.
And deploying
That's
it.
great.
I think that's great advice, because entrepreneurs have typically a very high EQ. They have high intuitive nature, intuition. And so you've got to be able to kind of receive it and make sure that it's right for you. It's about the nuances. I love that.
That's right.
Jeff, favorite book and why?
You know, I'm going to go, I could mention various business books, but I read a book called The Alchemist at one point.
It's my favorite book in life. It's my favorite book. It is my favorite book.
That's amazing. See, I told you we're brothers.
Yeah.
There we go. So The Alchemist, this whole notion of...
Don't give too much away of the book.
Okay. Well, just the idea of putting yourself out there, pursuing something, and the universe, as they say, will conspire to help you make it happen. Positive energy. Now, I don't go too far on these things, but I am a believer in that. I think your own aura and how it, and your own sense, your own spirituality, and how that impacts you first as an individual. Forget the things around you, just your own movement through life.
Yeah.
Personally, and how you feel every day when you get up in the morning, and how you view life, how you attack challenges, how you look at opportunity and seize upon it.
Yeah.
That book had an impact on me, so I'm going to call that my favorite book.
Yeah, that book had a huge impact on me. I think about that book all the time, and when I was done reading that book, I was craving a sequel, and there isn't one. And it's great. I love that you said that book. I love it.
Yeah.
My question.
I'll say just quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know this is a flash, but really quickly on a business book side, what book I've always really come back time and time again in business is Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point.
Yeah,
I think that book is everyone's got to read that book if you're going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I would say that and Think and Grow Rich is just an all-time.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's classic. Yeah. Of course.
My question is from where you started to where you're now, personally, which priority shifted the most for you?
These are great questions, guys. Really interesting. Both a good balance of business and cutting to the core of of the personal issues. Now, I will tell you, when I was younger, I chased entrepreneurial success for different reasons than I do today. Excuse me. And so I would say that what's changed most for me is the why. Before. There was a certain part of me that pursued entrepreneurship for the financial rewards at the end of it, and the bling that goes with success. I was young, and of course, a lot of young people do pursue those things, but now it's more about achievement. It's a deeper, richer experience, and it has more meaning than it did when I was younger. Of course, I have a family now. Those things matter. I think more broadly about, beyond myself, about what success means and what failure means.
Yeah.
And how to put that into context in life. I think that, I've grown as a person and I've grown as an entrepreneur. And I think, so for me, the why I'm an entrepreneur and what I'm trying to achieve and what matters, what defines success. I think those things have changed most for me as an entrepreneur.
I love it. Last question for you, Jeff. That's great. Define yourself in one word.
Bold.
Love it. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, Startup Nation, and who your ideal, clients and audience are.
Sure. First, we encourage everyone, again, to start a business. So go to StartupNation.com to learn how to do that. If you want to reach out to me, Jeff at StartupNation.com, feel free to do that. Answer all the emails, and look forward to helping anybody realize the dream of having a business of their own.
I love it. Jeff, I appreciate you coming on the show. I just want to highlight a couple things that I love that you talked about. You learn by doing, making sure you're doing research, looking for proven methods that are key. Be true to yourself. Be ready to adapt and react. Be vulnerable to your failures. If you believe in what you're doing, then the ask is much easier. Have a plan A, B, and C, and look around and say, what if is a great question. I appreciate your insight and your wisdom, your friendship, and everything that you're doing to infuse more entrepreneurs in the world. I appreciate everybody who's listening. Ish, I appreciate you. I'm going to let you close us up. But Jeff, I appreciate your time, and close us out, Ish.
All right. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in for Think Mentorship Live. We're grateful and thankful for Jeff joining us and giving us his wisdom through his experience. And we hope to see you guys soon in the next episode.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.